Hi, moving on to using functions. In the previous two videos, part 1 and part 2, we were looking at how to enter simple formulas, our own formulas, by either making use of the relative cell address or the absolute cell addresses. In this video, we are going to be doing the same thing, but of course we'll be using built-in formulas instead of using our own formulas. And these built-in formulas are what is referred to as functions. Now, if we go back to the definition of an Excel function, we see that a function is a built-in formula that takes values or arguments, performs some operations, and return other values. Now, the operations that are going to be performed by the function are known to the function itself. Therefore, when we are writing a function, we do not necessarily need to specify the operators. The operators are known to the function itself. We simply write the name of the function, and then we pass some arguments in the form of values to it. Then it will know what to do with the values, and it will give us some results. Now, after doing this, we are going to see whether it's better to generate our own formulas or to use the inbuilt Excel formulas, which are called functions. All right, we have an example here. This example was specifically designed because it allows us to sort of cover much of the basic functions that are required for you to familiarize yourself with. The example on the screen takes CA mark calculations for students. It's simple, just taking two modules for students and their student numbers are given and the module marks are given, and we need to calculate the average and to give a remark whether the student has passed or not. We may also need to find out what was the highest score amongst the average student marks. What was the lowest score? Okay. And we may want to do certain counts such as how many students passed, how many students failed, how many students were there in total. Okay, and we may want to do some rounding off for figures and so on. So, in achieving that, we are going to look at the functions that are highlighted on the screen. We'll look at the sum function. The sum function is used in Excel to calculate the totals, which means the sum function knows how to add values that are passed to it, and it will give you the total. The average function takes arguments and it will calculate the average of all the arguments that were given. The max function here takes arguments and it will give you the highest value within a set or within a range. The min function will give you the lowest value. The round function will round off a decimal number or any number to any significant figures. The count function is going to allow you to count how many values you have in the different cells. The if function is a logical function that tests a condition and gives a specific or an appropriate result depending on whether the condition is true or false. The COUNTIF function is going to count how many arguments satisfy a certain condition tested using the if function. Okay. In completing our table here, we will be able to to choose which function or which appropriate function to use. And I'll let you know as we go along. Now, firstly, we would like to find out what is the average mark for each student. Remember, this is going to take a short time because we simply need to enter the formula once and we copy it down. Okay, to find the average mark, and by using a function, we are going to use the function average. Now, how do you access Excel functions? First of all, you need to click in the cell where you want to enter the function. Now, you do not necessarily need to memorize the name of the function because they are available if you go to the Formulas tab on the ribbon, and you will see under the function library, you have all the different functions that Excel offers. If you check under the AutoSum, you will find much of all the functions that we need to cover today, if not all. I see there's the sum here, average, count numbers, there's the max, the mean, and you can go to more functions and you will be able to see all the other functions if you select a category of all, for example. Yes, then you should be able to see all the functions that Excel offers. But you won't go that route. Therefore, we'll be using the basics. Now, to calculate the average, we are simply going to choose average. Now, look at what Excel does. It tries to highlight all the cells that come before the cell where we enter in the formula. But that's not going to be correct because we only need to use the values for computer literacy and basic maths. So avoiding the selection, we can still do our own selection. How do we do that? We click from the first cell and drag onto the other cell until we have selected all our necessary cells. Then you see that in between the brackets, the cell address range has changed. Now, maybe the range comes as a new word. Now, a range in this case refers to a range of cells that have been highlighted for the specific function. Starting from the first cell that you clicked, that appears on the left side of the range, until the last cell that you selected, which appears on the right side. If I was to select the cells across the row, that would change that way. But the moment I go down, it changes accordingly. And the bottom right cell will be the last cell in this case. But because we only need the marks for computer literacy and basic math, we start from cell C4 and we end in D4. All right, once you're done, then we press enter. We get our average mark for the first student. Okay. What do we do to calculate the averages for the rest of the students? We simply copy down the formula. All right. That's it. We have covered the average function and how to use it. Remember, you click on the cell where you want to enter the formula. You go to the Formulas tab. You go to AutoSum or wherever. As long as you go to more functions, you should be able to spot that and select it. But you can find it here, so you're just going to select it from there. Okay. So let's mark average here as already completed. So give it some darker highlight there, darker fill. Alright, the next thing is to find the remark, but let's not go there first. Let's look at how to find the maximum, the highest score. Suppose we want to find out what was the highest score, and we want that value to be displayed in this cell currently selected. Alright, what do? Remember, now that we're using functions and selecting that from the ribbon, we don't need to start with an equal sign. You could, there wouldn't be much of a difference, but for the sake of saving time, you don't necessarily need to do that. You simply select the cell, then you go to the Formulas tab. Now, to find the highest score, as we mentioned before, we are going to make use of the max function. The max function can also be found under the AutoSum. Simply say max. Oh, this time Excel has been able to pinpoint our accurate selection. So, just to be sure, you want to do the highlight again. Then you press enter. This seems correct. Our highest score was 88. But what if we want to find out the lowest score? Lowest score will be found out if we use the mean function. Okay, I saw the mean function here also. Simply say mean. Oh, we can do our own selection, so it's among the same range. Press enter. The lowest score was 0, which is correct. Right, so let's mark max and mean as already covered. Okay. What if we wanted to see the total for whatever reason? Okay, maybe not so relevant, but for whatever reason, if you wanted to see the total, I remember in the first video we calculated the total, but what we used the manual formula, sort of selecting each cell, But this time, instead of doing that, we are going to make use of the sum function, which is going to give us the sum. Now, selection is a little bit over the range, so we select our range, then press enter. It does give us the sum. Okay, so sum is sorted. We are left with the round, count if, and count if. Now, in order for us to know whether a student has passed or not, or failed, we need to know the passing mark. Suppose the passing mark is 50, as it is commonly, then we need to set a condition that a student only passes if they have 50 or above. Okay, now the function that will allow us to do that will be the if function. Why if? Because it's going to test if the student obtained 50 or above, then you should give them a passed remark. Otherwise, if their mark is not 50 or above, which means it's lower than 50, and give them fail remark. Okay, how do you do that? You click on the cell, again you go to formulas. Now the if function doesn't immediately appear under the AutoSum group, neither. Oh, it does appear here. But if you can't find it here for some reason, if it wasn't recently used, then you can still go anywhere you find insert function. Is it insert function? Yeah, insert function. You can choose the if function. Okay. Say OK. And it's going to give you a form that allows you to to write your logical test and the value to give if the test is true and the value to give if the test is false. Okay, now what is the test? We want to find out whether this mark for the first student, which is in E4, is greater than or equals to 50. Okay, if this is true, then we should print the remark passed. Oh, my keyboard is a little passed. Yes. And if the test is false, then we should give a fail remark. Okay. Now, using this method, Excel already gives you a trial or a dry run through the logical test, and it gives you, using the given value in E4, it gives you a hint that the expected result should be the value or the remark passed. Okay, so the formula results therefore is equals to passed, and this is how you can test whether the formula has been entered correctly or not. Okay, since we are now sure, we click OK. Therefore, we get the value passed. Alternatively, you can type this yourself in the cell. For example, you can type that, say equal sign, say if, say what is the cell address, E4 is greater than or equals to 50. Then you put a comma. Okay, give me the value passed. Else, give me the value failed. Now this doesn't look like it's working. Let's see. Yeah, must be typing error there. Okay. Yeah, Excel has this problem, especially when you type in the function yourself. Let's see. What if I come here, insert function, like the previous way we did it. If E4 is greater than or equals to 50, then gives me the value passed. Else gives me the value failed. Okay. Oh, this is Excel 2016, so it doesn't use commas. It uses semicolons. I see. That's why I got it wrong. Yeah, supposed to use a semicolon instead of a comma. But in the previous versions, we used to use commas. Anyway, that's a new discovery there. Alright, I can drag this formula down so I can get the remarks for the rest of the students. Okay, so we are able to see that even the student that got 50% is given a pass. But anyone below 50% from 49 down to 0 is given a fail. Alright, so we've got our if statement done. Alright, suppose we want to find out the total number of students. Okay, total number of students. Okay, then now remember we are simply going to count. We're not going to give a total or the sum of the values, but we're going to give a count of the values. So therefore we are going to need to use the count function. All right, what do you want to count? You can choose any. We can choose the student numbers, for example. Go to formulas, look for the count function. It should be under here, count. No, I don't see it anywhere here. Yes, here it is, count. Okay, great. Now it's simply asking for a range. It allows you to give more than one range, but we only have one range to test. So we can select our range there, and it gives us our count. So Excel immediately gives you the formula results before you see it appearing on the worksheet. So in this case it's 7, and that confirms it's correct. Click OK, then we get the answer 7. Sorry. So we've got our count sorted. Here. Alright, but what if we want to find out how many students passed and how many failed? Just by counting all the students, we won't be able to know that. But if we can use the function COUNTIF, then it's going to count with a condition. Count on condition that the student passed, or count on condition that the student failed. Okay, so we can add another heading here. Number of students that passed. Okay, how are we going to know whether the student passed or not? We are going to check their average mark. Alright, so we use the function COUNTIF, and it will will give it the arguments of the average mark. Okay, we go to formulas, look for the COUNTIF function. Should be under logical or something. No, not here. Recently used, no. Okay, if not, then I'll just look for it here. I can type COUNTIF maybe here. If, can you give it to me somewhere? No COUNTIF. How come? Okay, let's check from all of them. COUNTIF. COUNTIF. Can't find it. Should be here. Count is not the one, it's count A. No. That's for... Yes, there you go. There is COUNTIF. So how to do the COUNTIF? You write the function name, you specify the range, and then you specify the criteria. And I know that the criteria is supposed to be under single quotes. Okay, let's see how this is going to work for us. Alright, the range is the average marks. Okay, the criteria is number of students that passed is if the student got 50 or above. I don't think that worked out. Let me remove the single quotes. I don't see any result here. Criteria. greater than 50. Or should I use double quotes maybe? Greater than 50. Does that work? Yes. But I want it to be greater than or equal to 50. Yes. Not single quotes, but double quotes. Yes. So how do I know it's correct? Because Excel already tries to evaluate that and it gives me the result, the formula results here. So before I click on OK, I already know that my formula is correct. So I click OK, so it gives me the number 5, that is 5 students passed. Okay, and if I want to find out how many students failed, let's say number of students that failed. Okay, what I want to do is, since I'm using the same function here, I can copy it. Yes, it's also possible to copy a formula, the content of a cell, even if it's a formula, and then I would paste it here. Now I want to paste it not values but formulas. Yes, it gives me the same value, but I want to change this to less than 50. Okay, I've changed it to less than 50 so I can find out how many students got less than 50, which is students that failed. Alright, sorry about that. Then it gives me the number 2, which is correct because I see the first student got 25%, and that's the fail, and the other one is 0, which is also a fail. Okay, so COUNTIF has been covered. Now round, I can find out what is any decimal value they rounded off to some in the nearest whole number. For example, I can take this one. This is in cell E10. So I can give it here. Oh, round. Let me just give it here. I got the formula. Round is not here. More functions. Round. How come it's not getting it? Click here. R on the keyboard. R, round. I see round is there. Yes, round structure is give me the number and specify the number of digits after the decimal point. Okay, that's what I want. I want the number, say that one in E10, which is 61.5, rounded off to 0 gives me 62, rounded off to 1 gives me the same, rounded off to 2 gives me, oh, I thought it was going to give me 61.50. Okay, it's probably ignoring the zeros. So since it's having a 1 decimal point, I want to reduce it to 0. So it gives me 62, which is rounded off to the nearest whole number. Okay. So thus we have covered the round function as well. Yes, so you see, if you might have noticed, I've been able to achieve and also carry out my calculations in a more efficient way by making use of Excel built-in functions. There are some scenarios when I need to simply use a formula, say for example if the function does not exist in Excel. But for much of the calculations you will need to do in Excel, they are already built-in formulas or built-in functions. All right, now, okay, thank you for listening, and that sums up our using functions topic. Thank you very much.